Your thoughts on, how many of these, whatever they're called, pivot players, playmakers, how many of them would you put on the pitch? Where would you put them on the pitch? And then in terms of how would you suggest someone would manage that process?
The two most important things to remember in this is players these days, elite players, train a hell of a lot more often than players in the amateur era would have. So, these guys spend every single day of their lives, probably twice per day, just training and learning this game of rugby. Now, I've been privileged enough to attend one of those Tuesday sessions at Leinster, where they, run those manic plays, transition from attack to defense, and it's all around craziness. But if you look at that and you see how these players train, lads, at this stage, any player should be able to do pretty much anything, because during those sessions, they are all over. There's forwards passing, there's backs, rucking. Everyone does everything. So in this day and age, 2021, having people not specialize in positions should almost become the kind of par for the course. It for me is weird that we still have so many positions that specialize. And I think a lot of that comes from that way of thinking. You cannot force a 12 to be a 13. It's very different positions. Now, when it comes to tight heads and loose heads, yes, obviously there's a case to be made. But when it comes to the back line, considering how these guys train, there is a bit of flexibility. Secondly, the other point was how, in my work, I measure the efficiencies of teams. How good are they at winning territory, retaining ball, scoring points, that kind of thing. And that forces me to look at games almost very cold in a black and white way. Like, I don't see a gain line win or a clean ruck or these things. I am quite cold in that analysis of, did they achieve something from that play or not? And obviously, when you start looking at the game that way, you do tend to realize what works and what doesn't work, and there's a bit of numbers behind that. So I've realized early, a ball being passed to the wing and the wing then kicking forward is one of the most efficient plays on the rugby field, because number one, you gain that territory automatically. Number two, you've shifted their forwards to run all the way across the field, in defense, which takes a lot more energy than if you were the attacking side. And then also you get to pile pressure on their winger or fullback catching the ball, and more often than not, you win back possession of a line out or whatever the next play would be. So it's an incredibly efficient play, and it makes you ask, why do entire rugby games go past without the team ever doing it once? So now we ask, why can't we select Beauden Barrett and Johnny Sextons at wing? Pace being an issue. Maybe Johnny is not that quick. But then you ask yourself the question, how often in games do we rely on that out-and-out pace of a winger to score? And the simple answer is very, very, very rarely. Many games go by in which wingers hardly touch the ball, leave alone touch the ball with enough space to round their man. So the whole concept of the wing being the fastest guy on the field, I strongly challenge and would ask the question, why is the wing not someone who can kick a ball at pace and kick it fairly accurately at pace? So that's then the first thing. We can ask the question around wingers, but then similarly look at the number 10. We don't rely on the 10s to kick that much anymore. It's the number 9s who's been clearing the lines and relieving pressure. We're looking at 12s who can straighten the line and kind of get you over that first phase, a little bit of advantage. But why can't we select big, fast wingers to play a 10 then? If the role can change that much, and in a perfect world, why can't we have players who can do a little bit of everything? So I think it's just time that we really start challenging some old notions about what positions do and what they can and cannot do. Guys, at the moment, it's only Eddie Jones really questioning a lot of things about the game. He seems to kind of removed his own shackles and thought, look, I'm just going to, from now on, reinvent how we do things. And it's great for the English Rugby Union to allow him that freedom. But I'd love in Ireland, I think the Irish would benefit the most from that kind of setup because of, the different sports that you guys play and the different exposure to a wide variety of skills. Just use it in union. Why are we not seeing all those skills used in union more often? I find it hard to believe. It's odd.
I get absolutely everything. There's loads of great questions coming in, comments which we'll bring up. 2 years ago, one of the initial Keegan Big Joe shows, I talked about a thing called interoperability, and this was specifically about the front row. This was specifically about the pack and being able to change those around. Now I do get, because we're almost talking somewhere like a Johan Cruyff's total football here, where Cruyff had the defenders playing attackers and the attackers playing, so they understood the mindset of what another player had to go through. So where you're talking backs and forwards, and we know that there are some of the back row that could play 12, 13, could play on the wing. Some of them have started at 8 and then have gone to other positions, so why not? So actually, there'll be loads of people who will watch this tonight and watch it afterwards and go, oh Jesus, the man's way off. But actually, it's not. In a modern game, we want more. It comes back down to what you were just saying there, Brendan, about not having the junior schools doing positional stuff. And it also comes down to Joe Lyons saying, should junior schools not spend more time with basic ball skills? Because if you're putting too much emphasis on a position, for me, you're going to lose that. I think a prop forward, for example, or a hooker. I mean, what you've got to ask what a hooker does. Well, he's meant to throw a dart and he's meant to hook the ball. Some don't throw darts very well, and very few hook the ball because the ball doesn't come to him. What does a number 9 do? People are going to think now, Jesus, he's onto the scrum half again. Come on, big fella. But 3 things a scrum half's meant to do. They box kick. What's the bloody point of a box kick? I know what it's meant to do, but it's completely wasted by most people. They put the ball in, which doesn't even go to the hooker. It's misfed. Anybody could do that. And then he's meant to be the first to he or she is meant to be the first to the ball at the base to get the ball out, and most of them are far too slow, which is why the likes of Faf de Klerk look so bloody brilliant, because they're doing what they're meant to do. So actually, Keego's right. Anybody really with a bit of power, a bit of knowledge, a bit of skill, ball skill, handling, can play a number 9. Why do we have to have a little angry man, Brendan, that plays scrum half, who doesn't have as much capability as some of the other players? And on that, if that doesn't set people off, Keego, I'll just bring you in on that one.
Sorry, yeah, I was ready to ask a serious question until Joe's love of the number 9 popped up there. But no, I was just saying that, aside from like on the, in the green jersey, it's great for everyone to be able to do everything. But as well, when I think that's what you're alluding to, guys, when, Eddie Jones has really turned a corner in that he's questioning everything. And I know he's still got a bit of the BS about him, but it's coming down a wee bit. And, he's becoming a legacy coach now for me. I think he's really turned a corner, and it takes a bit of ego to do that, to change things, much like our King Leo. But if a team doesn't know where the threat is coming from, which I think is the end result of what we're talking about here. Now, we could even do it right now in blue, the way the team is set up now. Obviously, the pack won't get a chance, or as many chances, to do the sexy passes and the nice little kicks and stuff like that, because they're busy in the trenches, and they've got to pick their battles a bit better than maybe the backs will. But for example, if you were to give Ringrose when he's fit, or Byrne now, that freedom from that number 13 jersey, like I know we're saying passing past the 13, but if our 13 is also a playmaker, then we have that extra. They don't know where the threat is coming from, which is the end result of what we're talking about. And then if we were to switch, for example, Lowe and Gibson Park, for example, that puts our brains of our 9 out on the width of the pitch. They can see what's going on. They know what's going on with all that 9 prep work. Lowe is in there running like a dog chasing a car. I don't think anyone will be prepared for that kind of number 9. A number 9 who is not using logic, I guess. Whatever way Lowe plays the game, he just plays it as he sees it, and that's not how 9s play the game. So if you're facing that, whether you're England or whoever, you've no idea how to deal with it, which I guess is the end result of what we're